What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Mask of Fear Live, where we will debut our brand new, I guess you could call it a game show segment, harkening back to the days where Johnny and I co hosted Star Wars Wastelands together. We did a lot of fun, interactive shows and countdown style things, and this kind of feels like it's going to be one of those episodes. And if we enjoy it, we'll do more episodes like this. It's just a matter of how it all turns out at the end. But in this episode, we are going to be discussing John Carpenter's Halloween 4. That's right. Everybody goes on about wanting more John Carpenter. Well, what was his Halloween 4 going to be like? We're going to talk about that in today's video, and this is going to be the beginning of many of the taking shape I guess, chapters that we'll be covering on the channel and over Patreon in the months to come. And/or ended up with a pretty big time Emmy on the weekend. We'll talk about what that was. And then a little later on, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We introduce it in our Reel Picks segment. Somehow we got to come up with a conclusive top 10 that either willingly or forcefully we all got to agree upon, and that will take up the whole back half of the show. But without further ado, this is The Mask of Fear. Welcome back to the Mask of Fear Live. I am one of your hosts for this evening, Sean. Pleasure to be here with all of you tonight. It's going to be a fun episode. I know the YouTube algorithm has been kicking us in the ass, and it takes a bit for the audience to build up in here. As excited as I am to let you two in on what John Carpenter's Halloween 4 was going to entail and talk a little bit of Andor, I think the main event for tonight is our first edition of Reel Picks, where we got to band together as a team, locked into a room. We must decide what the top 10 MCU films are together, joined by our old buddy Tommi B. And if we can't, we're doomed, pun intended. Joining us for this evening is Mr. Fabulous Threesome himself. You can actually see him, which means you probably won't be able to see him tomorrow night while we watch episode 6 of Ahsoka. Johnny V, what's going on,
man? Yeah, I'm visible for now. I'm excited. This was a lot of fun doing this this afternoon and this evening. You know, compiling this list was it was an easier start than I thought, and then it got to the end, and I was like, I'm making some tough choices down here. But I'm excited. I'm excited to see who's got what where, and who's got what. Really, I'm excited.
Also joining us, he's the Grand Moff feel like he hates me a little bit for this game we're about to start, but considering it might not go anywhere anytime soon, this is only the beginning. I believe Count Dooku says to Yoda at the end of Attack of the Clones. It's Mr. Randy. What's going on, man?
Not a whole lot. This is definitely one of the harder things I've had to do because, I'm such a fan of just the movies in general, and to essentially eliminate, and have a list as small as I do compared to the amount of movies that are actually in the MCU. It's definitely difficult. I mean, the top 10, I think I'm pretty confident that I have, but then getting those last five in just to, try to argue as to why they should be on a top 10, that's going to be the fun part, I guess.
Just want to give a shout out to our channel sponsors to begin with. Ryan over at Kaulignation, one stop shop for all things Kaulig Racing, Dinger Nation, SVG Nation, and all things NASCAR. Big shout out to Jesse Storytime Spectacular, talking all things pop culture and interviewing anyone and everyone you can possibly think of. And our buddy Jason Knight over at Backtrack Cinema, the best retro film channel that I know of. Big thank you for all your contributions. And for bonus content, always feel free to check us out at patreon.com/the mask of fear. The link is in the description below. All right, so let's start off with this piece of business. Everyone talks about how desperately they wanted John Carpenter back for another Halloween movie. The closest we got to it is really his involvement in the David Gordon Green movies, where he's an executive producer. Johnny, let me go over to you, man. We talked extensively last year about what he was going to do with Halloween H2O and some of his ridiculous demands that he had to quote Axl Rose and "You Could Be Mine," and they weren't realistic. They were never going to happen. What he was asking for. Are you today, given where he is at in his life, or were you even 15, 20 years ago someone who clamored for another John Carpenter Halloween film, or are you just fine with him being involved in a minimal capacity?
I mean, I used to be. I used to be a proponent of having John do it because, for a long time, for most of it, he's really the only one who's sort of, to me anyway, sort of captured excellence, as far as it went. But, as he's progressed and we're getting further and further away from it, I don't know. I'm not all too excited at the prospect of it because, like, I mean, really, he really hasn't done a whole lot himself in a very long time, right? Like, a lot of his credits are, created by and screen, like I don't know how at this point anyway, like right now, I don't want him to come because I think the horror genre has passed him by, as it has a lot of people, from that era. Um, I think you'd probably get a good nostalgia out of it, but um, I think that as we've gotten further and further away from it, my interest has more and more decreased, and I don't know. Like when we covered it, I can't remember what a lot of the specific asks were, but I do remember, you know, laughing at a lot of them at the time and finding them humorous. But I don't know. I mean, I love the idea of it. I love the idea of him being involved in the creative process. Sort of like we saw in the David Gordon Green series trilogy. Like in the first one anyway, you could definitely feel a lot of John's influence. And I think that was great, which is at least part of the reason why I think the trilogy sort of went steadily downhill. I feel like they listened less and less to him and sort of did their own thing more and more. So that's kind of what I think. Like, I mean, like if in, 1983, 1984, he had done another one, I think it would have been great because he had the understanding of the characters. He knew the direction of the story. He had it, it's one-minded, and having him in the creative process would have been, I think, great. But by the time we got to H2O, things got a little wonky, and now it's even further from that. So, I love the idea is great, but I think the application wouldn't live up to what we'd expect, because he did manage to, almost essentially capture lightning in a bottle with the first one. And I don't know, it's one of those things I'd like it to stay as it was. It was such a pinnacle for that type of film that I don't know. I mean, I don't know that, he could have delivered past, that mid 80s period. Anything after that, I think it would have been.
You mean you didn't want to see Michael get sent to space?
I did not want to see my guy. I had purged that from my memory. I had managed to not remember that was a thing we discussed, and you put it right back in there. I'm not happy about that.
It sure was. Randy, how about you? Are you someone that desired John Carpenter to return to the franchise in more than just a executive producer role, which he did with the David Gordon Green movies? And Johnny is right; he was far more involved in 2018 than Kills Ends. Do you long for it now, or do you think that time has come and gone?
At this point, I think that time has come and gone, just because we've seen a newer, I wouldn't say more updated version of Michael Myers, but it's just the idea that with the last trilogy we saw, at least with the first movie and parts of the second movie, they had an understanding of Michael, and they brought out something that I'm not sure Carpenter would have been able to do it on his own. Uh, I look at uh, like George Romero and like all the Dead movies he did through the years, and how each one of them, even though some of them even got remakes, but they steadily just didn't hit as hard as when he was at his peak in the 70s and early 80s. Where but and don't get me wrong, I enjoyed like the ones he did get out before his passing, but it's just the idea the quality wasn't there. And I'm afraid that if John Carpenter had been given the opportunity to give us something more by himself, I don't think the quality would have been there. And I feel like where his sensibilities are for the character and just the overall story may have just not resonated with even people in the 90s or 2000s for that matter. So the fact that he's at least has been given being given input and helping build the character along the way in the movies that we've seen recently, that's great. And I hope they start to listen to him with the series, just because you still want to feel that presence for Michael in that respect. But for him to have a solo shot right now, I just don't think he has the energy for it, and I don't feel like it would fit with the just the times right now, especially with the type of horror movies we're getting. And now that a lot of them are starting to get more cerebral now than they used to, and it's just, I think it's just his time has passed.
Yeah, I don't think he has the ability to go out there anymore. And I don't think you can name John Carpenter, the director or the writer and the director, even just the writer of a new Halloween cinematic release. I don't think you can have him in charge of a TV show. I know when they were considering doing the anthology TV show route, um, that could have been an opportunity. Like if you were going to have 8 different episodes and only 2 or 3 of them were going to be like Michael Myers based episodes, uh, had Carpenter come in and done his own episode, one, I can almost guarantee you it would not have been Michael Myers. Excuse me. But two, probably a lot more feasible to put out, a 45 to 60 minute one episode thing that he can sink all of his time and energy into. That's a standalone thing, which was his whole direction for Halloween to begin with, to go the anthology route, than to expect him to do anything else on top of that. Plus, I'm pretty sure he's got a huge passion for music, and he's good at it. And two, I think he likes making a lot of money for doing very little. So if he even somewhat believes in the project or it's a fat enough check, he's likely going to attach his name to it. So let's dive into what this was going to be about, though. Michael Evans has put in a couple of hints, and that is the version we are talking about, Michael. He mentions the John and Dennis Etchinson draft. And it's important to remember that this wasn't going to be like 1988, like the um, original Halloween 4 is. This was going to be significantly before then. You had Yablands and Akkad and I forget the fifth guy that was involved, but you also had Deborah Hill and John Carpenter, who all had a chunk of the rights. So you think the Halloween rights stuff is still iffy now. You had the rights split 5 different ways, and back then you weren't making a project unless everybody was on board. Then you had Akkad kind of wanted to do his own thing. Gablands wanted to do his own thing. Carpenter and Hill wanted to do their own thing, and they didn't want to continue with Michael Myers. But once it became clear that that had to be the direction they went, he hired Dennis Etchinson, who I believe did the novel for Halloween 3, maybe even the novelizations of 1 and 2. I can't remember off the top of my head. But basically, it's Halloween 4, takes place after Halloween 1 and 2. And in terms of returning characters, you have Hunt, the deputies coming back, Tommy and Lindsay, obviously from the original Halloween. You have Nurse Marion from Halloween 1 and 2. So those are the 4 that stand out to me that we're going to be coming back to the movie. And in this, the town of Haddonfield is kind of like its own character. They have banned the event of Halloween due to the events of 1963 and 1978. They don't want anything to do with it anymore. It's outlawed. There's no Halloween parties. It's very, anti-Halloween. Don't you dare say it. It's very Voldemort. And Michael Myers did in fact die, by the way, at the end of Halloween 2 in this version, as did Dr. Loomis. The Michael that appears in this movie is basically a supernatural ghost of Michael Myers, and the fear of Haddonfield, the fear in Haddonfield of the event of Halloween and the shape basically brings him back to life. I believe he comes out of an exploding pumpkin to begin with. Lindsay and Tommy have their own scars, mental scars from the first movie. To a point, Tommy's going around lying to people, saying he's seen the shape, burn alive. He's dead. Tommy wasn't there, obviously, at the end of Halloween 2, so he's lying. Gets called out on it by people. Lindsay's family doesn't want Lindsay hanging around with Tommy, so there's a dynamic there. But the big event, if you will, that happens at a drive-in towards the end of the movie. So picture old school drive-in movie theater in the early 1980s. And Michael, because he's pure supernatural, right? He's a ghost essentially, ends up becoming like 12 feet tall. And he's like giant Michael, and he's just going around slaughtering people left and right. We'll have more on this in a future video, but for you guys, knowing what we got with Halloween 4, which is my favorite Halloween movie, and then the cliff notes of this one, would you have been open to this movie in general, and would you have been open to this movie, or for this movie, to replace Halloween 4? Randy, we'll start with you.
I don't know so much about replace what we got, but the idea of basically Michael Myers being a tulpa is kind of cool because of the town's fear and memories of him being so strong that they create, essentially bring him back. That's kind of a neat concept. You kind of had me until you said 12 feet tall, and I went, no, we're good. I can't imagine having to deal with a 12-foot tall Michael Myers, let alone just a normal sized Michael Myers. So, but because I think at that point you're kind of jumping the shark a little bit. But other than that, it sounded like a kind of a neat idea, something that really kind of would have resonated pretty well, I think, back then if it was done right away versus waiting until now, or even trying to attempt to replace what we got in 4, because like you know, 4 is one of my favorites. So I have a hard time saying that this would be good enough to replace what we got. Now, would I like to see kind of a concept of it and kind of see some of the, you know, the artwork and things that they were trying to put together for something like that? Sure. Just because, you know, it's a neat idea, but it has to be executed properly, as is with any project. And I'm just not sure that, you know, especially now thinking about it, that's just kind of, yeah, I can't say that I'd be all for it. Like I said, be cool, but it's just to see some, you know, little bits of snippets here and there, video or drawings or something, just to kind of get an idea. But beyond that, I'm pretty happy with what we have it for, and this really wouldn't have overtaken it in any way, shape, or form.
Johnny, your thoughts on Carpenter and Etchinson's Halloween 4 idea?
I watched Nightmare on Elm Street. I've seen this film before. No, I mean it.
When did Elm Street come out?
The first one was.
I honestly don't know. I thought it was 80s.
It is 80s.
So it's very possible this was going to come up before then. I didn't even
the
think
first one
about
was
that, to be
84 when it came out.
This would have been out before then. So at the time, had you been alive then, this would have come out before Elm Street. So could they have captured any of that magic?
I mean,
2 wildly different characters, though, at the same time.
I feel like at that point, I think the best idea, even with that presentation, would have been to continue down the anthology route. You know, like, you can have the universe within the, like, you know, shared universe sort of it all, just not have it be Michael. Like, if you want to sort of tell that story in that similar vein, and, you know, with the supernatural existing, you know, having come through, you know, Halloween 3 and now this, I'd be sort of okay with that, in the idea of, you know, some otherworldly demon type essence has taken up residence here in this place that fears Halloween, and, you know, and all of that, and built the story around that. Like, even if the character sort of manifests itself as Michael for part of it to play into the mythology of the location, I could get behind that idea. But, like, I don't know. I mean, it's sort of too far out of left field. And I think, you know, I don't want to say that's part of the reason why Halloween 3 failed, was because it wasn't what everyone wanted with Michael and being sort of that slasher film of the era that was expected. It just, I don't know. I feel like this would have gotten lost in amongst all of sort of like the other things of that era, like, you know, Exorcist, Poltergeist. It's more akin to something like that than a Halloween film. And I don't know if it would have gone over the way that, like, would I've enjoyed it? I don't know. I mean, you're right. It would have been, you know, it would have preempted Nightmare on Elm Street, whether or not they still went through with it or not. I'd hope so. So it might just be a, they did Halloween 4 better than Halloween 4 kind of situation would have occurred. But I don't know. I mean, I don't like the idea. If you're going to stick with Michael, you stick with Michael. You know, you ride the horse that brings you. And that's a little too far afield for me, personally. No, that's not to say it would have been good and I would have enjoyed it, because, let's be honest, I've enjoyed some pretty shitty horror movies in my day. You know? Like, I've enjoyed some films that are just inherently
Huge
terrible.
fan of zombies, we know.
Oh, fuck off.
Zombies mentioned. Shout out to our buddy Zach.
Zach's pumping the air somewhere and he doesn't know why.
For sure. I like the drive-in movie setting. I do. I don't think you could recapture that today. There are still some drive-ins, obviously, but they're not the same. If you were doing a period piece, I wouldn't mind that being the maybe not like the end centerpiece of the movie, and even if it was great, but like a big set piece at some point during a Halloween movie that's a period piece. I think you could do a lot of fun things with Michael Myers, slaying people at the drive-in. A lot of creative kills and scary. And I don't know if I'd be up for the 12-foot ghost Michael Myers, but Michael Myers in general at the drive-in would be a lot of fun. The question is though, what would each and every one of you prefer? The normal, the original, the OG Halloween 4 by Dwight Little and Alan B. McElroy? Or would you have preferred the John Carpenter, Dennis Etchinson version? Comment down below and share your thoughts there. We have Real Picks coming up here as soon as Tommy is able to jump on, where we will be deciding as a unit what the top 10 MCU films are, and we'll be looking at the chat for some advice at times, maybe even a tiebreaker if it comes down to it. We shall see. Before we get there, also a fun little note on the MCU. Avengers Doomsday is expected to finish up filming here either later this week or early next week. And they will take a short break, I believe around 5 or 6 weeks, and reassemble, pun intended, and go out there and film Secret Wars. So things are happening there. On the Star Wars front, got a couple of pieces of Star Wars news I want to talk about. We'll address Andor here shortly, but there's a rumor out there going around that Lucasfilm has let Disney know that they would prefer to create cheap, I don't know if that's the right word, but that's the word I'm using anyways. Sorry, I guess the right word would be low budget Star Wars movies with the potential of, still earning high at theatrical level, but also still have their big tentpole Star Wars movies. And all I could think to myself was, okay, so your low budget Star Wars movie is The Mandalorian and Grogu, and your big tentpole movie is the Ryan Gosling movie, judging by the way they are continuing to handle things there. Holy crap. Can't stand how friggin' hot this program makes my computer run. Yes, we're bitching about the software again, people. That's right. So, I don't know. To me, as long as Disney Plus is a thing, they are always going to want something for Disney Plus from Star Wars, whether it's one series a year or one series every other year, an animated series every year. I don't think Disney Plus is going anywhere. I just think the money being put into it is not going to be what it's been the last half a decade or so. So we'll see what happens there. It's just a rumor. Wanted to throw it out there. Randy, any take on that particular rumor?
So they want to be more economically friendly in making movies. Okay. I don't know. I guess it depends on the story they want to tell. If it's true, if the rumor's true, mind you, if it's a good story and they can get away with that minimalistic approach with certain things, okay, I'm willing to listen. But if they're trying to be like dirt cheap, fourth rate character that no one's ever heard of before and is basically nothing but green screen, it's not for me. As as a fan, as a lifelong fan, I feel like you know we deserve better quality. We're not just going to just sit there and soak up everything Star Wars just because they say, "Hey, this is Star Wars," and if it turns out being something cheap and meh, then you're gonna disenfranchise some people, and they're gonna sit there and they're gonna talk with their wallets and be like, "Yep, you spent $50 million on this, and you're not even gonna make that back because that's just the way they are." And of course, there are the diehards that are just gonna see everything, but I'm just saying we can't. I hope that's not what they're doing. I hope it's just truly a rumor, and that's where it stays because as fans, we deserve quality, not just sitting here with our, waiting to see if they're gonna try to bamboozle us like they did with the Acolyte.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot to this rumor, believe it or not. I think we're already seeing the proof in the pudding with the Mandalorian and Grogu and the way it's been handled. Um, I will say, very interesting that they're kicking off their marketing push with that. And I say kicking off very loosely because it's not like there was a ton. But starting in Shanghai was a interesting choice because it's a market that they desperately want to be able to have an impact on that they never seem to be able to. It can really change their global intake at the box office. Um, we'll have to wait and see what happens, but I don't know. I feel like the warning signs are already there that this is what's going on. But do I believe that low budget movies will replace Disney Plus series? I could see them doing the odd low budget movie if Mando and Grogu is successful. But I also think Disney Plus is going to mandate that they have to have something from Lucasfilm that's Star Wars live action for Disney Plus every so often. I don't think they'll be allowed to just be, yeah, forget Disney Plus. I don't think that's in the cards. Johnny, thoughts on this rumor?
I mean, I think budgets are, I think, should be inherently unique to each project. I don't think big budgets should be handed out like they have for a lot of projects that have been. I'm sure they pissed away a lot of money in pre-production in a lot of these films that we've never seen to this point in the Disney era of Star Wars. There are probably
Millions
millions.
among millions
There,
among millions.
exactly. Like to sit here and say, we're gonna go low budget for things. I don't inherently think that's a bad thing, as long as you put the money into the projects that need it and require it. Not every project requires, a multi-$100 million budget. It just doesn't. Not even Star Wars. And I think that's the problem, is that budgets have inflated so much that, in not just Star Wars, this is something that has affected, I'd say superhero movies equally as much, is that, it sort of became that these were your tent poles. These are your summer blockbusters. These are the films you build your release cycle around. And nobody ever stopped to say, well, does it always have to be that way? Can't we make a smaller, I don't want to say indie budget, but like, why can't we stop and tell a project that is a much lower budget that doesn't require, all of the expense to be put into certain things? Like, I think a prime example of that is sort of the Andor series. Like you can do more with less. And like Dustin just says there, you can make these, like, if you can make a kaiju movie for, sub 100 million, why can you not make a Star Wars movie for that? Like, you don't need, especially if it's not a film that it necessitates like the big space pieces and the big, space combat and things of that nature, and those sort of things. Like, you can do sort of, I don't want to say like a landlocked, but you could do, like, hypothetically, this is purely just me sort of spitballing, you could do an Ocean's 11 Star Wars-esque film of a heist on a Hutt cartel and not spend $300 million.
Yeah, it was called Solo, and they spent more than $300 million.
Well, that's because that's exactly the sort of counterpoint to that is you didn't need that budget for Solo.
Well, they didn't have that budget. They shot the movie twice, essentially.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's an entirely different budgeting issue. So, but like, it's
I
there
will
are
say
definitely
this: I agree with what you're saying, but one of the problems they run into, and it's like the eye candy of it. You say what you want about Star Wars, but you look at those first 6 films. Okay, doesn't matter if you're a prequel lover or hater. All of them, for the time that they were made in, feel like big budget blockbuster adventures that don't look like cheap ass shit. And sometimes the Star Wars TV series have looked like cheap ass shit. It kills me when we have to acknowledge that Kenobi, my favorite Star Wars character ever, with some very redeeming parts of that TV series, looks like shit more often than it doesn't. Doesn't mean the story shit. I quite enjoy the story. But you need to find a way to be able to do that and still have it feel like Star Wars and not the Timu version of it. So, and that's difficult to do while trying to keep costs down.
I think at least part of the problem with that is that Star Wars, and I'll say that this is one of the things that is sort of a detriment to George, is that he always wanted to be on the cutting edge of production. And that sort of worked when you were on the cutting edge. They're not on the cutting edge anymore. Everyone is so much more like when George like sort of went crazy with the green screen or blue screen as he used in the prequel trilogy. That was sort of, I don't want to say unheard of at the time, but at the time it was relatively small. I mean, to that point, I think the only other major big budget productions that had done it to that extent is probably The Matrix.
And not even to that extent, not even close to that extent.
No, but that's what I'm
Matrix
saying.
is
Like,
quite small compared to.
that's what I'm saying.
compared
Like,
to-
it's the only other sort of big budget blockbuster film that used it to any sort of meaningful effect. And then George came in and said, let's go crazy, because he did so amazingly well with Lucasfilm and and the Lucas art and the studio and all of that stuff that he sort of pioneered in the 70s.
Well, to be clear, he did it again with the prequels.
Oh, absolutely.
They achieved what they wanted to achieve because everyone started doing it with their movies.
Absolutely.
The problem was everyone else figured out when he didn't that it was supposed to be a good mix of the two and not solely that. The Phantom Menace at times looks far better than the other 2 movies in the prequel trilogy because it's a good mix of the two. Where the other 2 are pure digital projects with the exception of a couple of locations, right? So, we're actually going to keep.
I think before we do, I just want to make one more quick point, though. Is like about the budgets. Like, I Googled this while we were discussing this. And even if you adjust for inflation, A New Hope would have cost $50 million today.
That's nothing.
What are we doing?
It's a low-budget movie.
Exactly.
Low-budget sci-fi movie, anyway.
Like, it's ridiculous that, like, it goes to show the one absolute thing that I can take away George's skill as a writer and even sometimes as a director. But there's one thing I cannot ever take away from George Lucas, is the visionary mind. Because that's what he had. He was the visionary. He saw it, and he saw it through to the end.
He was the visionary! The revolutionary! The something, something, something. I've heard enough of this shit because Sports Illustrated says it too. Yada, yada, yada. Blah, blah, blah. I think I'm getting them mixed up there. Randy, did you already go on this topic or no?
I did.
Okay. All right. So I just want, because Tommy's waiting in the green room. And we need all the time we can get for real picks here tonight. Andor wins outstanding writing for a drama series. They did not win the overall best drama series, which is unfortunate, and frankly probably lost out on some other awards simply because their name was Star Wars. But I am glad when it came to the writing that it was acknowledged, and specifically the one that won the award for them was episode 9 of season 2, Welcome to the Rebellion. Mon Mothma's speech was just incredible. I cannot wait to go back and watch the series again. Deserved, fellas. Keep it brief.
Absolutely.
I mean, absolutely. Yeah, it should have won no matter what. I mean, it doesn't matter who it was. That speech was amazing.
Yeah, the writing absolutely deserved the Emmy and it won the Emmy. I think personally, having seen it, I think the best series did go to the better series. I do think The Pit was a better overall series because it was so different.
Gave up after 2 episodes. Thought it was shit. And
I really like.
over the top. I thought it was gore porn at times. Hey, here's Grey's
but
Anatomy.
I think that was the realism of it, though. I think that's what it was supposed to be. But I can see why you'd say that, though. I can't disagree with your point of that, but I think again,
look at the feces.
This is almost like this is the opposite of the Andor situation where you gave up after 2 episodes. I'm saying the writing just gets so good in the back half. Like Noah Wiley just knocked up his performance amazingly, which is why he won Best Actor. Deservedly, the writing, top to bottom, I think was superior. Top to bottom, it did rely heavily on the heavy element. I'll give you that 100%.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's to do it for our Star Wars segment this evening. We're going to move on to the Reel Picks segment. The first time we're doing this, hopefully, will be a mainstay here at the channel. Not every episode, because it's way too much work to do that. But every couple of weeks or every few weeks, doing one of these could be a lot of fun. And joining us, as always, around these parts, he's known as Mr. Go Fuck Himself, Tommi B. What's happening, buddy?
Hey, guys. Can you hear me okay?
We got you.
Yep.
Good. Had a few hiccups this season with the setup.
Welcome to the
Johnny
club.
has hiccups every week, so
Welcome to the club.
All right, well, I want to begin with one minor comment. Sean, you have a shit take. The Pit was fabulous. Love it.
oh my god.
Can't wait until season 2.
Agreed.
The wife and I are both so excited.
Of course.
But I love
course.
Andor.
I watch
right?
it every week after we finish recording.
Let me know how Miss Marvel season 2 goes, if it ever happens. So help me God, if one of you guys has the fucking Marvels it as a lock, I might jump through the fucking computer screen.
Funny you mentioned that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do. I'm not that dumb.
Let's run rules for the audience. I do not graphic for this. There will be a graphic for the next time we do this. My apologies. I've just been spread incredibly thin. The rules. This is how it works. Each individual host gets a lock, which means we have already decided what our locks for the top 10 MCU movies will be. There could be as many as 4. None of us, though, have communicated with one another what those locks are. And if any of us have the same locks, someone will not be given the opportunity to choose another lock that is simply their lock for the top 10. There'll be some time given to go back and forth on everything that we do. There could be as many as 4 locks, or there could be as few as 1 if we all have the same lock, but I'd like to think that that is not the case. Each person had to have a list of 15 nominees for the top 10 MCU movies. And how many is there? Like 30 plus in general? So we had to pick 15 films that we thought were possible nominees to be in the top 10 MCU films. A player at random, this is after we do our locks, will be selected to share one of their nominees for the top 10 list and give their reasons why it should be on the list or not. Obviously, when I'm just going to bring Tommi B introduces the Marvels as why they should be in his top 10 MCU movie list. And if Randy has it on his list too, Randy's not going to get another opportunity to bring up the Marvels. Right then and there is going to be your opportunity to talk about it. So if someone brings up something that you have nominated on your top 15 list, then it's possible it makes the top 10. Movies not on the top 15 nominated list automatically eliminated. That should go without saying. You need a majority vote to get in the top 10. If it's a split vote, the movie goes to a TBD list. There's four of us. If Johnny and I say, get the hell out of here with your Marvel shit, and Tommy and Randy say, no, we want it in, then that will be decided a little later on, which is why I have a notepad here beside me as we do this. If unable to agree on the final picks to set your top 10, the team will take the remaining movies and rank them individually and tally their numbers to determine who gets the final spots. Once you get a list of 10 individually ranked films in the top 10, we will then take those 10 films, take a few minutes to run them 1 through 10, and if you have a film at 1, that would be worth 10 points. If you have a film at 10, that would be worth 1 point. That's how we will get to our ultimate top 10 list at the end of this thing. We do not promise that this will go smoothly or that people will get along and that feelings will not be hurt. The hosts will also be asked to provide representation of what their locked film is. So if you don't have it written on a piece of paper right now or labeled on a notepad on your phone that you can send in a screenshot to the Mask of Fear, which I suppose I need to make a small correction to here to make this a little easier, then you're not doing the game right. You need to be able to back up your lock. You can't be changing your lock just because someone else picked it. That would take away from the fun of this. There you go, Tommy. You're in that chat now. All right. So
when do I send it?
Only once we get to you on the picks. And Randy, we're going to start with you. What is your lock in the top 10?
My lock is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I mean, it's...
And you send a screenshot.
Yep, I will do that right now.
Yeah.
It's an exceptional spy thriller that, even whether it's a superhero movie or not, it's just that good.
All righty.
Tommy B. Rest of my stuff.
I mean, I like the Winter Soldier a lot, actually. I like 3 of the 4 Captain America movies a lot. I'm guessing Tommy can guess which one I don't think is worth a damn, but
we're going to have some problems. You already made me mad what you said about the pit tonight. Wife is in the other room trying to sleep. All right. I'm sending my screenshot now. I put Avengers Endgame.
Endgame is a lock. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, not Infinity War, right? Bit of a hot take among many people.
Interesting. I mean, Endgame's up there, right? Like, I do worry, though, that the end of Endgame boosts that movie more than it should. I think the emotional end of Tony Stark dying, oh, spoiler alert, people. The emotional impact, it's done very well. But I do wonder how much praise gets added to that movie simply from the way that's handled at the end compared to the film being, one of the best. I think you said you were looking on Rotten Tomatoes earlier and you had Endgame as number 2, I believe.
Their ranking, the list I found earlier, I don't know if I ever clarified this to you, was done by the critic rating. If they did it by the audience rating, it would be so much different of a list. But like, I'm not saying I don't like the movie, but Black Panther was number one on that list. And I've never met somebody who's told me before that Black Panther was their favorite MCU movie. So it was definitely a different list.
Johnny, what do you got, man? What's your lock?
My lock is Fantastic Four. First steps.
Oh God.
Yeah, and that's why I use my lock on it, because
recency bias.
Not even
for sure. But continue. Let's allow
for a
the man
top
to...
10. I don't believe it is. I think it is one of the best quintessential capturings of comic book characters in the MCU period. It does the best job of capturing the characters it's trying to tell the story of. I'd say out of any character in the MCU to date. I love my comics, and this was the most pure. Like, it did an amazing job telling the Galactus story without going crazy over the top. It sets you up for so much more to come down the road. And I think, outside of a few things that I don't like cutting of a few characters, like John Malkovich should have been in this movie, but overall, I think it's great. I think it's amazing. And do I think it's like a top 3, a top 4, or a top 5? No. But I definitely think it belongs its place, in the 8 through 10 slot. That's why I gave it my lock, so I could be 100% certain it would be there. It's a strategic lock.
I hate you. And it's not that I don't like the film. I think it's a solid
You hate that
film.
I'm playing the game the way I'm playing the game.
Well, I'm about to do the same thing, so we're on the same wavelength. I just hate that you did it with that film. It's a solid movie, but I'll be honest, I thought the first Fox movie was better, and I'll stand by it.
That might be a worse take than The Pit.
I think the Fox movies are underrated.
I'll agree with that. I'm not going to disagree with that.
People shit on them just because they're not MCU films. Or are they? Because my lock is Deadpool and Wolverine.
It's listed in the Wiki MCU, so it counts.
I thought there was a chance that... You guys can see that I had mine down before Johnny even mentioned his. I thought there was a chance that you guys might not have this film in there because of how recent it is. And for me, this film did everything it was supposed to do. The set pieces leave a little to be desired, or a lot to be desired. But look, for years we wanted Deadpool, Wolverine, Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, but they also did it in a way that really, did a really strong nod towards the Fox movies that came before. And whether anyone wants to admit it or not, without those Fox movies being the success that they were, and make no mistake about it, most of them were successes, there's no MCU. There's no driving force for Disney to pay the money that they did to bring in the MCU. And I don't think they get enough credit for that. And I think between the dream team of Reynolds and Jackman as Deadpool and Wolverine, and all the nostalgia in the film, and the tribute to those old Fox films, which sounds like will continue all the way through Avengers Doomsday. Kudos to them for doing that. It had to be a lock for me. I just wasn't sure I could trust the three of you guys to...
I had it in my top 10.
Okay.
Each one of the 4 locks was on my list.
Yeah. Yep. So far, yep.
Okay, well... Whoa, hang on. You had Fantastic Four in your top 10, Tommy?
Let me confirm it's top 10.
I didn't, sorry.
No.
Yes, I
Not
did.
even in my top 15.
Same. I'm with you, Sean.
it's not like it'd be far out, but it was one of the films that I was deciding on for the final two spots.
I do want to make a confession. Sean had earlier said that he did not know that this was going to go well and that there would not be any problems. And despite Sean having taken the time to try to explain this to me one or two different ways, I still did it wrong. But that has been corrected. That has been corrected. I had Avengers Endgame on my list, so that has now been removed and replaced with something else.
See, now you have me worried that because you picked Endgame and not that other movie that we won't mention at the moment that we were talking about that was grossly underrated on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm now worried for that movie's ability to make the top 10. I trust Randy, so I'm hoping Randy's going to back us up with that one.
Now I'm wondering what movie that was. Shit.
Oh, for the love of God. All right, so let's...
was it
let's
Thor,
continue.
Love and Thunder?
Honestly, that movie's probably on the level of Fantastic Four for me.
Oof.
Yeah, I said it. All right, well, Tommy's the guest. You got your top 15 list in front of you, man. Nominate a movie to potentially go in the top 10, and we're going to find out if it makes it. And we'll go in reverse order. So we'll go Tommy, Johnny, Randy, and there's a chance we don't even get through the list depending on how this all goes, right? Like, this could end... The duration of this game really depends on how much we're agreeing or not agreeing.
First one I started off with was Doctor Strange.
Why? State your case. Why?
Because I said so. No.
That's going to be my lock answer from now on.
Because I said so.
Because I said so.
No, I mean, it's never been any secret that I'm a pretty big fan of Doctor Strange as a character, but I really enjoyed the telling of his origin story through this movie. I really enjoyed, watching the background being given for the sorcerers, the training aspects, his life before learning sorcery, his injuries, how he reformed himself as a person, and how he put on this whole new persona that is still so compatible with who he was before he got to that point. So,
Tommy B nominates Doctor Strange to make the top 10 of our MCU list countdown here on Real Picks. We have Johnny, Randy, and myself to go over this. Tommy needs he needs at least one of us to agree with him to allow the film to be considered for the top 10. If two of us agree with him, the film will automatically be locked into the top 10, given one less spot, and there's already 4 taken because none of us had the same damn lock. Johnny, Doctor Strange. It's in your top 10.
It
wow.
made my list with a bullet.
Okay, well, I'm going to say you're fucking nuts. Tommy and I, as good of friends as we are, cannot seem to agree on the MCU as a franchise at all in any way. Doctor Strange was one of the films that just missed out on my top 15. If I was doing like an overall MCU rank,
you said it just missed out
on my top 15. I think you're nuts to think it should be nominated into the top 10. I probably had it like 17 or 18. Randy, you're the deciding force here, man. Is Doctor Strange going to possibly make the top 10, but not until later on? Or are you locking it in right now?
Doctor Strange is not in my top 15.
Yeah, boy. All right, so
top 20, yes. Top 15, no.
So let's put Doctor Strange in the waiting room, the green room, if you will. All right. It's not that I don't like the movie. I think it's a strong movie, but like we're talking about 30 movies here, guys. It's hard to get into one of those. 37. Okay, well, It's hard to get into one of those top 10 spots when there's already 4 taken and there's only 6 left. Now it's, you get kind of picky on what you want to see get in there. Johnny, who you nominating?
Well, I'm gonna start with Iron Man. It started the franchise. For an origin story, it is an amazing one. You cannot knock the quintessentially amazing casting that is Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. He captured Tony Stark in every facet of his life and did an amazing job at it. But that first film, you had a good story, you had good characters, you had good acting, and it started the whole thing. Like you talked about, Fox franchises not getting the love. Well, I mean, without Iron Man, there is nothing else. If Iron Man falls flat on his face, that's it. There's no coming back from that. Um, so Iron Man is easily, to me, in the top 10 MCU movies.
Tommi B, are you?
Iron Man was also on my list.
But okay, we're asking you now though. Would you lock Iron Man into the top 10 before we get to any of the other movies? Or would you prefer to say no and wait?
Oh crap! I think I'm still misunderstanding the rules. It
So
is
you
on
have
my list.
Don't let him
have your
Palpatine you.
you have your own personal list, right? Which is great. But right now we're deciding our joint list, the overall top 10. So Johnny has nominated Iron Man. Iron Man might be on your top 15 list, but we already have 4 spots locked up, which means there's only 6 spots left. Do you want to give one of those 6 spots to Iron Man, or do you want to say no and wait? The question is, do you think Iron Man? You're going to say no.
I'm going to say wait. There's more to be discussed.
Okay, to be clear, that's a no. It's either a yay or a nay. So you're saying nay. I'm saying absolutely. For once, I completely agree with what Johnny's saying. No Iron Man, no MCU, and as great as of a casting that Robert Downey Jr. is, I don't think Jeff Bridges gets his credit for his role in that movie and as one of the better MCU villains. I love how real that movie feels. Some of the movies in the MCU, it's like, it's overly CG heavy and cartoony, and Iron Man never once gives me that feeling at all. So I am locking Iron Man in. Fuck you, Tommi B. We still haven't agreed on anything yet today.
Why did you even ask me that? Holy shit.
Which leaves the deciding vote to Randy. Now, the interesting thing here is the votes are 2 for me. Two for me. Johnny and I have 2 for yay. Tommy's a nay. So the worst we can do here is wait till later. It cannot be outright eliminated. Randy, where are you falling?
Here is, before I reveal it, here's the blurb I have that I wrote down for it. The single most important movie in the MCU. If it flops, we get no MCU. So that should give you your answer, because that is in my top 10.
So there you have it. If I had horns, I would ring them, but I don't. Iron Man locks its way in to one of the top 10 MCU spots. Dustin, you're in the chat, buddy. I know there's a few others in the chat. How are you enjoying this so far? This is something we are considering doing somewhat regularly. Let me update the graphic, and I believe that puts us at Randy for a nomination.
Shit. This is tough, because now I'm like, what potentially is gonna make it and what's not. There's a few that I'm pretty sure should make it. And now it's just figuring out the fringe ones that are barely going to make it. Well, one of my fringe ones you did is your lock, so I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to go a little bit off the reservation here. Something that's, the start of it was right after Endgame. I'm actually going to nominate Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Basically, it was a great story about a lesser-known character, had great action, great choreography. Overall, the special effects were awesome. They helped that fix the Mandarin for how they messed it up in Iron Man 3. And it was one of those movies that actually kind of, got me, I wouldn't say emotionally, but like it moved me. Like I actually felt something, and that's what a good story's supposed to do, move you, make you feel something. So, and that's why I'm nominating that.
I think it's a solid movie. Bunch of characters that I didn't know jack shit about, and I took 10 years to fucking see it, basically. Or at least it felt that way. Hot take. I didn't mind what they did with the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. I just think people confuse who the Mandarin is in that movie and isn't. Even though I don't think it's a very good movie, so I will not be nominating it for a top 10 spot tonight. Yeah. I thought about doing it just to fuck with you, but I should have got Randy and Tommy in on the joke. We could have spent 5 minutes just fucking with Johnny on Iron Man 3.
You would have succeeded if you'd have done that.
Regrets. Look, it's a solid movie, but we're talking top 10 MCU movies here, and there's already 5 spots taken. I would have to cut off my own arm and eat it to approve this and lock it in at this point. So it's a hard no for me. Johnny?
It's a no from me, dog. It salvaged the Mandarin from how they played it with Trevor Slattery in Iron Man. Yes, but it still didn't do it enough to salvage it for me, because the Mandarin is one of my favorite comic book supervillains. And it still didn't do enough to properly salvaging it. It wasn't as good. I feel like we waited too long for it, and by the time we finally got it, it didn't deliver on the promise it had. It was still good. So, like, if this was a top 20, then sure, it'd be somewhere in that, for me, 17 to 20 range, but top 15, not there. Top 10, not even close.
Tommi B, will you decide to allow Shang-Chi a chance at making the top 10 later on, or are you about to eliminate Shang-Chi from contention?
I'm going to say that I absolutely love the film, and it's one MCU film that I enjoy revisiting from time to time. I do not believe it belongs on this list.
Oh, Randy's heart. People that go back and rewind this stream 1 minute, when Tommy says, I absolutely love this film, and I'm looking right at Randy right now, you can see almost like a bit of a blush come to it. It's like, yes, Tommy's going to save me. And to lead him on that way, Tommy, just to put him down in that fashion,
I'll remember
was
this.
very
Just so you know.
sadistic of you.
It
So
was
like
very
one of them
Pat McAfee on College Game Day.
One of those telltale games. I'll remember that.
It's very Pat McAfee on College Game Day. I loved it. I approved. I appreciate it. It was great. Mostly because he wasn't putting me down at the end of it.
Wow. Well, Shang-Chi is officially eliminated from contention. All right. I am going to nominate, just looking at my list here. You know what? I'm going to nominate this one. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere, but this is how strongly I feel about this film. I think the MCU post-Endgame has had a lot of misses. They're not necessarily terrible movies, but they're movies that don't hold up to the quality that built up to Infinity War and Endgame. And since I believe some of these other ones are going to go up to vote before this and could use up these spots, I want to get this film at least in the conversation. I watched this film. I was pleasantly surprised. Randy, I remember months ago, was telling us about how good this film looked. I think Tommi B went and seen it and told me how much he liked it. I finally got a chance to see it. Jade and I really enjoy it. I love Wyatt Russell in this movie. I am nominating Thunderbolts for a top 10 MCU movie. I'm not talking high-end top 10. It probably deserves to be in that 8, 9, 10 area. But Thunderbolts feels like a Captain America Winter Soldier Civil War. It grounded but real and non-cartoony and very character driven and yet had that wit in the movie. So I'm going Thunderbolts. I'm nominating Thunderbolts. Randy?
So it's funny you mentioned that because before I fully understood the rules, I had Thunderbolts as my honorable mention because of them tackling subject matter that's not typically tackled in a superhero movie. And I am willing to put it in the waiting room for now, and we'll see if someone else gives it that extra kick to the top 10.
So that's a yes for Randy. Johnny?
Yep.
It's a no for me for a very simple reason. I still haven't seen it.
Oh, no! We got to fix that.
It's on Disney Plus.
I just haven't sat down to watch it yet. Like it's at the top of my queue, but
What is the matter with you?
How can you actually efficiently do this without seeing all the movies?
I think he made the right. There's a couple I haven't seen. I'm not seeing the Marvels. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it. It's just not getting my vote. He made the right call, though. If you haven't seen it, you can't vote it in. I agree with that.
Well, Sean,
Tommi B?
you can just go ahead and lock that puppy in because it is on my list. I love that film. We just rewatched it the other day, and I am willing to stand by it on this top 10.
Wow, I was hoping just to get some consideration for down the road, but with me nominating that, it has now made our top 10 very full already. If it will let me add another name to this, that would be wonderful. Thunderbolts now makes 6 spots taken in our top 10, ladies and gentlemen, which means there's only 4 spots there's only 4 spots that are open, and I'm looking at my top 15 nominees going, oh my God, there's a lot of movies that are not going to make the top 10. This is not good. Tommi B, back to you. Nominate another movie, good sir.
Okay, here we go. I have to reread my list now, and I'm very scared almost.
Yeah, pick the right one.
Yeah.
Because there is a chance. There's a chance we may not get back to you. If all 4 of us vote our next picks in, the top 10's in there. So think about it that way.
Yeah, no, I see it. I'm going to go with Spider-Man No Way Home.
Why is that?
Because I said so.
Such a well thought out argument.
Okay, so Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, worst kept secret in all of cinema for that whole time while it was being developed. However, the implementation on screen was absolutely beautiful. I really and genuinely loved that film. And I have to tell you, prior to seeing that film, I never got around to seeing the Andrew Garfield movies. I grew up going to seeing the Tobey Maguire films in theaters, but I never saw the Andrew Garfield movies. I went back and watched them later, and we genuinely enjoyed them and feel it's such a shame that there was never that third one. It continued facilitating that ongoing connection with the MCU and all the parallel Marvel products, really expanding the concept of the multiverse and allowing other properties to kind of be funneled in as needed or desired. So I feel like Spider-Man No Way Home is a valued contribution to the MCU, especially post-Infinity Saga.
Fun little story about the Andrew Garfield movies before the first one came out. I don't know if Johnny remembers this, but him and I were hanging out. The first one I thought had come out. We did not intend to go see a movie that day. I had thought the movie was out. I had seen like a commercial or something and misheard it. So we got real excited because it's like, oh, okay, let's go see this movie. That'll be fun. just to find out the movie was still like fucking a month away. We didn't go and check. I ended up checking on the internet, but still, we had psyched ourselves up. We were excited to go see it, and it didn't happen on that day. I'm big yes for me on No Way Home. Bringing the three Spideys together, bringing back Willem Dafoe, who, you know, ultimately still might be the best comic book villain we've ever seen in a movie. I mean, he's Willem Dafoe, though. I mean, I could fucking write a movie about Paperboy, the video game, and he'd find a way to make it interesting. But
Man made a
yeah,
dog sled movie interesting.
big yes from me on No Way Home. You know, it's shocking that, you know, we only have 4 spots left, but I was confident someone else was going to bring this movie up. Big yes for me. Randy?
Yeah. This is in my top 10. This was definitely one of those ones I was going to say yes to. I was going to pitch it eventually if no one got to it. But, I mean, it's a great emotional roller coaster, you know, merging the universes and giving every Spider-Man fan what they wanted. We get to see the 3 Spider-Men together, and the chemistry they had was so good. And I love the story overall. So that's a yes from me.
Well, Johnny, you can't keep it out of the top 10 at this point, but would you have voted it in?
That's a unanimous conclusion. There's no question in my mind that it's a top 10 MCU film. You know, you guys have said it. Like, for me, it did such an amazing job of, like, we talked about how the Mandarin was improved in Shang-Chi, but this one did a far superior job to that, improving the Jamie Foxx Electro. It actually presented him in a way that I was like, I support this as a comic book fan. And that's not something I said about TASM. It did not. I hated it. It was awful and terrible, but it vindicated all those characters. And let's not sleep on the moment where Andrew Garfield saves MJ and has that, you know, that emotion of saving, you know, the girl. Like, that was just, you know, you go to a superhero movie to enjoy it and have a good time. You do not expect it to reach inside and grab your heart and pull on it and squeeze. And that scene did exactly that.
Alrighty. Well, I want to take this moment to highlight this. 7 of the top 10 is already decided. We still need to rank those 10 movies, which means there's only 3 spots open, ladies and gentlemen. And there's still this many great movies out there. You got the Black Panther, Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War, all of the Guardians movies, the other 3 Avengers movies, rather. You got Civil War, Captain America: The First Avenger, Far From Home, Homecoming. There's the Ant-Man movies. There's a ton out there, and only 3 spots left. So be careful what you nominate. Johnny, you are up.
Okay. Where do I want to go with this? Do I want to go with one I want to make the case for, or do I go with one that I think belongs there? That's the debate I'm having with myself right now. So I'm going to go for one I think is both. One I might have to debate and one I think belongs there. Thor Ragnarok. To me, it does the best job of capturing comedy in the MCU, which, you know, when you have a James Gunn film, is a little shocking to a degree. But that, to me, is the best performance of Chris Hemsworth as Thor. You get the emotion of him losing his father and the people and everything crumbling around him, a sister he never knew about, all of those emotions wrapped into what is otherwise a really good story. Like, all of the ancillary characters are also really good in that one. I mean, Carl Urban, Taika himself as Korg, all of the characters have a great story within it. You get sort of that bonding of Thor and Loki, and to me, it is. I don't think it's necessarily top 5, but I think it absolutely belongs in the top 10. So I have to put it forward. And honestly, from my opinion, Guardians be damned, the best musical moment in the MCU is the immigrant song in the battle on the is it the bridge. Like, that is just one of the best musical scenes in all of the MCU from me.
Tommi B, are you putting Ragnarok in or no?
Nah.
Oh my God, I hate you. I know
Wow.
I'm showing my hand here. But we really don't agree on anything MCU at all.
It's just the
Why
way he
not?
said it too.
Why is it getting benched? It just nah.
It's
Fuck
a good
that shit.
movie. It just didn't end up on my list. The Thor
Was it
movies.
close?
Probably. I mean, I enjoy watching the Thor movies, but the Thor movies just don't stand out to me as being my favorite MCU movies. They got a lot of problems. I enjoy Thor. I enjoy Loki. I enjoy Odin. I enjoy all of that. But they're just not always the best. Period.
Wow. Randy.
So this is a fun movie. I really enjoyed it a lot. There's good action, good comedy. I love the fact that they, had a kid just have a line for the movie that Thor gets to say. I thought that was awesome. And I'm looking at the list. I'm looking at what we got left open, and are
Still got
there?
Shang-Chi in the waiting room too.
No, we don't.
No, Shang-Chi did not.
Sorry,
make it.
Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange, my bad.
So, but looking at the fact that we only have 3 spots left, I have to ask myself, are there 3 other movies more deserving to be in the top 10 than this? And the answer is yes. So it's a no from me.
Oh, for the love of God. Why? It's a hard yes for me that we're at least putting that old mother Canucker in the waiting room. At one point in time, I have no problem in saying Thor Ragnarok was my favorite MCU movie. I don't think it's my favorite anymore, but it's a top 5 MCU movie for me. And I'm shocked that this one didn't lock its way in already. Damn Americans.
They just don't understand good films.
Randy, next nomination, man.
Okay. I see how it is. So my next nomination is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy. It's the cast has great chemistry, good writing, great directing. It was just a fun movie about a bunch of misfits that we never knew we needed in our lives. The trilogy itself is good front to back, but ultimately, it's just one of those movies that just sticks with you. Great soundtrack, but then that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm nominating for the top 10.
Well, this is where this game can become fun, but also somewhat hostile. Look, I think the first Guardians movie is fan-fucking-tastic. I think it's far and away the best of the 3 movies. I'd never seen a shred of Guardians before seeing that movie. I didn't know any comic lore on it whatsoever. I really enjoyed that movie. But Randy, you just burned me on Ragnarok, man, and there's only 3 spots left. So in the words of the slightly twisted words of Tommi B back in the day, you can go fuck yourself, because I'm not voting this in. Not after what you just did to my boy Ragnarok. You left him lying in the street bleeding, and we had to throw him a lifeline that maybe he can use later. Jeez. No, I'm not doing it. I won't do it. Johnny?
Is it in my top 15? Yes. Is it the highest rated Guardians film in my top 15? No. For that reason alone, I'm not going to put it in the top 10. I think it's something that, I'm open to the debate on once we get to that stage, assuming we get to that stage. Like I'm okay with that. Like it my position is not immovable on it. Like I said, it's in my top 15. But like you said, there's only 3 spots left, and there are a lot of films ahead of it in my top 10, and there are still films in my top 10 that haven't even been spoken yet. So it's a no for me, but if it gets to the debate phase and it's close on a bunch of fronts, it might make it in the back end. But on a lock in the top 10, no sir.
Tommy B, are you locking Guardians in, or are you putting it out?
That's a very difficult question for you to raise to me, because the Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm pretty sure both of them, or all 3 of them, in theaters, and they are among my favorite characters in the MCU.
I feel like we're being set up for another Tommy B drop here.
Oh yeah. I don't know about a drop, but I feel like he's making.
I mean, it could be.
Yeah.
But it just
So
the
recap
debate.
me. If I say yes, it goes into the waiting room to find out.
correct.
It's not getting locked in.
Correct. But if you say no,
Okay.
it's out.
Let's put it on the waiting room.
All right. So Guardians of the Galaxy goes to the waiting room. All right. I can't believe this next film is ranked 17th amongst MCU films on Rotten Tomatoes. The MCU is literally built to this film, and I'm not talking Endgame because it's already in there. The MCU, for years, film after film after film, mid-credit scene, post-credit scene, going to the washroom scene, date night scene, happy time with your wife scene. They were sprinkling in events that led to Infinity War and Thanos for years. And as celebrated as Endgame is, I think Infinity War is a far better and more superior film to Endgame because, one, they didn't give you a happy-go-lucky ending. The bad guy wins in the end. And it's the film that we've been building up for this entire time. It's the reason for the Disney purchase. And so Infinity War, fuck you, Rotten Tomatoes, is a hard yes for me. I would like to lock it in. Tommy B, what say you?
Yeah, that's okay.
The balls on this guy.
Thanks for throwing me a bone, I guess. That's okay. I guess we'll give you this one.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy Infinity War, but as I've said previously, if I had to choose between Infinity War and Endgame, which one does it for me? It's typically Endgame, because Endgame it's the powerful conclusion, and I feel like the movie as a whole does it in a good way. I'd also be lying if I said that I didn't feel that Endgame and Infinity War are best watched back to back. It's a lot.
Fair
it's a big
points.
time commitment, but I think they're best enjoyed together.
Fair points. Johnny V, what say you on Infinity War?
I mean, I can't inherently disagree with anything either of you guys said. But again, we're at that point where it's the little things, and is it top 10 with a lock on its face? And I can't put it there. I can't put it in the top 10 with a lock. I think it's on my list.
You put Fantastic fucking Four on this list.
I did.
But not Infinity War. God, I
did.
hate myself for these rules. Try to be fair to everyone and get screwed.
Because I think, like Tommy said, it's a matter of degrees. And I think the separate... Now, don't get me wrong. I think this is sort of a victim of other locks we've got that we haven't got, that are in but aren't in yet. And at this point, I think, again, Infinity War is my third favorite Avengers movie. So that weighs on this. When we're at the point where we're in there, like, I want the debate, and I want it to go there. So it's no, but I can't lock it in that top 10 spot without the discussion. That's mostly the reason. Like, in a tie on all fronts, it might win, but there's still too many heavy hitters, in my opinion, that I don't want to end this debate yet. So it's a no.
Randy?
So you know what, Sean? I do like the idea, like with the movie, the bad guy wins. That's something we never had really seen.
See where this is going.
Great dramatic performance, great storytelling. Obviously, Tom Holland having to improvise that one line broke me. Broke the internet too on top of it. But you know what, Johnny, you had to lock Fantastic Four. So you know what happens now? I'm going to say yes and lock Infinity War.
Yeah, okay. I thought you were going to screw me over Shang-Chi. All right, so I can get on board with that. Infinity War makes the top 10. Hear that, Rotten Tomatoes? Go to hell. All right, so we cycle back
Tommy,
to
right?
Tommy B. Yep. We got 8 locks here, ladies and gentlemen. Winter Soldier, Endgame, Fantastic Four, Deadpool and Wolverine, Iron Man, Thunderbolts, No Way Home, and Infinity War. 2 spots left. Tommy, who you nominating? Keeping in mind, we also have we have Guardians, Thor Ragnarok, and Doctor Strange all in the waiting room.
I don't know. Like, are the other movies even any? I can't even say what straight things.
We haven't had 15 different films yet, Tommy. You should still have some on your list.
I know. I said, are the other movies even any good? Of course they are. Of course they are. Okay, the hell with it. I want to nominate Captain America: Civil War because I said so. Okay.
Can we get some real reasons?
Captain America: Civil War. I was explaining this to the wife earlier because I guess it's been a while since we've watched the Captain America movies. After a certain point, the Captain America movies stop being Captain America movies. They're really just Avengers movies. And I think that's a real powerful thing, particularly in Civil War, because we see it demonstrated that these characters, they're divided and they have to figure out, well, what the heck do we do now? And they go at it. It's powerful. We watch a big change in the narrative with who's good, who's not, who's against who. And honestly, they do come back from it for, Infinity War and Endgame, but they don't make a full circle. There's not enough time. There's some real drama in between all that action. So I think that movie deserves to be considered for these final couple slots on this top 10.
This is a really tough one. So I'm going to hand it off to Randy first.
You fucking chicken. Anyway, this is a tough one because for the reasons you said, Tommy, it's one of those where it's a team divided over ideals and trying to figure out how to come back from it all, mixed in with someone basically intentionally sabotaging the team to lead to this point so that they tear themselves apart from within the inside. It's a great story overall. Looking at it, it is in my top 15. I have to think about it in the sense, is it better than the other two that I have in my top 10 that haven't been mentioned yet? I don't know. It could be, it might not be. but I am willing to discuss it further. So I will say yes. So at least we can put it in the waiting room and have a good discussion on it.
Johnny V.
Well, I'm going to take this ball and I'm going to spike it into the ground because fuck no. Everything Civil War stood for in the comics was written on paper and burned in this film. It took an event that the comics had been building to for years. One of the tentpole events in comic books, which is why it spanned like 10 plus different comic book series included in that. And they made it about what? Nothing. You didn't have the events that made the Accords work in the comics. You didn't have the superhero children rising up to be a nuclear explosion to blow up a city for the rest of the world to be like, yo, maybe we should probably do something about these superheroes. No, the only experience the world had with superheroes was New York. And without them, the entire fucking world is gone. They don't have a reason to be against superheroes. And they manufacture reasons and then wash it away 15 minutes into the next Avengers movie. Like, it took an event that should have been so much more. That should have been an Avengers movie. It should have been a storyline that was built up through an entire arc and paid off through the next arc. And they didn't do it. They half-assed it because it was popular amongst the fans, and they were wishy-washy about it. They didn't include so many of the major comic book events that make Civil War Civil War. It was terrible. The only good thing that came out of the Civil War movie was the introduction of Spider-Man. That's the only good thing that happened in that movie. So no, it's not just a no, it's a hard no. Like, if I had an anti-lock, like if there was a, you said this and I'm saying veto, fuck that shit, get it out of here right now, no more discussion, I'd be using it right now.
Oh,
I'm
yeah?
that vehemently opposed to Civil War being on the top 10.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
You're mean.
You're mean.
Just remember you said something about an anti-lock, because I'm sure there's a few films we could sit here and be like, yeah, Johnny, sorry, we're going to anti-lock some of the stuff you want. So be careful what you wish for.
Of the top 10 so far, there's only one that was not on my list. So I hate to tell you, Randy, but that's not true.
Johnny, I think you're feeling some big feels right now. It's okay. This is a safe space, man.
I think this game that we have created definitely has the ability for some revenge picks for sure. So Civil War is a great Avengers movie. I mean, led by Constable Zubio, who, toys were on the shelves everywhere. Oh wait, that's the wrong movie and the wrong guy. Look, I stand by what I said, and that is Civil War is a fantastic movie. It's a fantastic movie that my first time seeing it at the drive-in, I fell asleep during it. And that's not a knock. I was just so exhausted. It was the third movie in a triple header to boot. I just couldn't stay up. I tried. I was pissed. I looked over at the guy that was sitting beside me, and I'm like, how much of the movie did I just sleep through? He's like, oh, half an hour. I'm like, you didn't fucking wake me up. Like,
that guy was not me, for the record.
It was not you. Although you know who the guy was.
I'm sure I do.
But, it's a really good movie. I'm not married to the comic book literature the way a lot of people are. And so for me, the story they tell in the movie, I think is fantastic. I think it's great. I really, really love Bucky in this movie a ton. Like, he's great in Winter Soldier. He's actually really good in the first Avenger as well. But this movie, I felt like was Bucky's coming out party. Hell, it might have even been Sebastian Stan's coming out party. I don't know if I agree with Johnny on the Spider-Man handling, because all of his damn scenes were shot before Tom Holland was even fucking cast in the movie, and a lot of Spider-Man in that movie is CG. There's a few stunt shots. I think Spider-Man actually looks quite bad in the movie, if I'm being honest. Tom Holland's portions of the movie, fantastic. Great soundtrack too for that movie. I'm stuck here because there's a big part of me that wants to say "fuck you, Johnny," and vote this thing in, but not just because of that. Honestly, if I'm doing my own solo top 10 list, Civil War is probably in like that 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 range. But because two people have already said yes and one person has said no, and there's a plethora of other movies we're still considering, I gotta say, what the hell? I like Carnage. We're putting Civil War in, baby. Civil War is in the top 10, bringing us down to one spot to go. And the interesting thing here is, who's the next nomination, John?
Yep.
So Johnny will have the next nomination, but we won't only be considering that movie. We will be considering the movies in the waiting room as well. So, Johnny, what is potentially the final nomination of the night?
Well, I'll start by saying this. This will be a day long remembered. This one's going in the
the
elephant
end of
brain.
Kenobi, and
This is going in the elephant brain. Okay. There's really only two candidates here for me that aren't discussed yet, that haven't been discussed yet, that I think at the very least warrant the discussion. I think one is a lock. I'm not going to fight it because it's in my top 10. But the other one is also in my top 10. And I think it at least deserves the nomination and the discussion. Black Panther. Because it was so almost different to all of the other superhero movies. You know, it's not about the big action pieces. It's as much about the culture and the lore and the people as it is anything else. And that's something that a lot of time gets lost in superhero movies. You know, it's a race to the next action sequence. It's not about anything else. Whereas Black Panther took the time to build up the people, to build up Wakanda and make it important as part of the story and the people. And it just, you know, it's sort of a linchpin in the MCU in that regard. Like it was the one that established you don't have to do formulaic superhero movies. You know, you can be different, you can be unique, and this one is the proof of that. So I think it deserves the discussion. Like I said, if this one doesn't make the top 10 and it's left out, that's fine. You know, because for me, it is, you know, a back top 10 film. You know, it's somewhere in the 6 to 10 range, but that's fine. I still think it warrants the discussion, if nothing else. And if the other one gets left off, well, shit happens. But I think this one, you know, deserves the discussion and the debate.
Black Panther is a no for me. It just missed my top 15 list. And it's not because it's a bad movie. It's a really good movie, but there's, I'd argue, 17 or 18 really damn good MCU movies, which makes it hard to do a top 10 list. It does all the things that you said. It's a very different film. You know, I didn't really know anything about the character. I wasn't blown away by the film, and yet I found myself very intrigued. You know, add Civil War in on top of that, and you know, people might even say when you look at Black Panther, Civil War, and Infinity War, it kind of makes its own little trilogy. It's a good film. I mean, there's two other Avengers flicks, there's other Spider-Man flicks, there's other flicks in general that are way up there. I just can't say yes to Black Panther, so I'm saying no. Tommi B?
I agree that Black Panther is a good film. I even enjoyed the second one. I even enjoyed the short little spin-off animated series that did not get very much attention, as I posted about in a group chat or a group at some point, because it had to compete with Fantastic Four, and I think that's such a darn shame. We don't just get the Black Panther, we get the Wakandan people and the Wakandan culture, and that's cool. And that kind of took a presence in the Infinity Saga, but also post it in the whole MCU. But it's not in my top 10.
Two no's, Randy.
This is a tough one because it is in my top 10. And I feel like, because I like that when looking at it, I love the fact of just how well, uh, Chadwick Boseman just oozed the character. Like, he made the character his own in his second go with the character. Um, he embodied what Black Panther was, especially in the three movies that we got to see him in before his passing. I also, watching this movie, felt like this was one of those movies where if you took out the superhero aspect of it, would it still be a good movie? And the answer is yes. I do feel like it deserves to be in the discussion for the top 10. Obviously, it won't be a lock, but I will say yes just to put it into the waiting room so we can debate it properly.
Oh, I thought I was unmuted. Randy, you're up.
All right. Well, since we're getting down to the nitty gritty, I am going to nominate the one film that I have yet to hear that I'm kind of surprised with, and that is going to be the original The Avengers. It was the hero team up we were building up to in phase one, and it really was. It had a good mixture of action, comedy, drama. Special effects were it still holds up pretty well today. And we got to see some of the characters take that step forward in their character development that really just kind of helped them shine moving forward as we got towards Infinity War and Endgame. So that's why I'm nominating The Avengers.
I'm going to jump in here because mine's very quick. That was the other one.
Yep.
I was down between Black Panther and the original Avengers. So it's a yes for me. It's a top 10. The only reason I didn't is just because I felt Black Panther deserves, at the very least, my making its case, if not being a waiting room film.
So I'm on the fence here because we have Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor 3, and Black Panther in the waiting room, which means you're pitting Avengers against those four films. The second either Tommy or I say yes, it then becomes, before we can completely lock it in, would you lock it in over all those movies? It's tough because I'll be honest, I like Age of Ultron better. I really do. I think it's more of a character study than the first Avengers movie is. I mean, we get the character studies in all their origin films. I get it, but I thought Age of Ultron added a different element to it. But it's the Avengers movie. It's the first big team up. I like the back half of the movie, pardon me, I like the front half of the movie a lot better than the back half. Man, this is difficult. But I am going to say yes, which at least puts it in a battle against the waiting room, because there's three of us that have said yes to it. Tommy, if you say no, the waiting room can be considered. We can consider those other movies in the waiting room against the Avengers. If you say yes,
We're
that's a
talking about Avengers 1 right now.
Yes, so you can either say yes to Avengers 1 and it's locked into the top 10 because it'll be unanimous, all four of us. Or you can say no, and even though it has a majority vote, we will pit it against Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor 3, and Black Panther in a challenge.
Yeah,
so
I'll say no.
It's up to you.
I'll say no.
Okay, so what I need everyone to do right now is, out of Avengers, you might want to have or something to type on. Out of Avengers, Guardians of the Galaxy, Doctor Strange, Thor Ragnarok, and Black Panther, list the top three in order 1 to 3. The top one will receive 3 points, the second one will receive 2, and the third one will receive 1. The film with the most points will get the final spot in the top 10. I will go first. My number 1 is Thor Ragnarok. My number 2 is Avengers. And my number 3 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Johnny, what say you? You're muted, sir.
God damn it. Okay, I'm good now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, my number 1 is Black Panther. My number 2 is Thor Ragnarok. And my number 3 is Avengers.
All right, Randy?
So my number 1 is the Avengers. My number 2 is Black Panther, and my number 3 is Guardians.
All righty. Tommy
This
B?
was difficult. I still don't even want to say it. You know what? The heck with it. Okay. Number 1's Guardians. Number 2 is Avengers. And number 3 is Doctor Strange.
All right, so the votes tally up as Doctor Strange, hopefully I didn't do this wrong, got 1 point. Guardians of the Galaxy got 5 points. Thor Ragnarok got 5 points. Black Panther got 5 points. And Avengers got 8 points. So even though we had 4 films in the waiting room, Avengers ultimately becomes the 10th and final film locked in to our little game here of Reel Picks. Let me edit that to add Avengers in. Why isn't it showing? There we go. So there's our 10 films. Johnny, you want to read them off to people? Not in order, obviously.
Oh, geez, I only have them in order. Okay, so I'm just gonna randomly read them. We have Infinity War, Captain America: Civil War, Endgame, Thunderbolts, Deadpool and Wolverine, Iron Man, No Way Home, Fantastic Four, and Winter Soldier. I think that's all 10.
Yes, sir. All right, so now what'll happen is we need to rank these 10 films 1 through 10 individually to come up with the final overall ranking. But before we do that, here's just a few films that didn't even have the opportunity to be nominated for. My apologies, my dog is trying to kill my cat. We didn't talk about Guardians 2, Guardians 3, Age of Ultron, Captain America: The First Avenger, Far From Home, Homecoming, and many, many more that didn't get considered tonight. And it's all about where you put the nominations in, right? This is part of the game. You might have had something in your back pocket that we just didn't get to. So now the guys are going to be allotted the time here for a couple of minutes to rank those 10 movies 1 through 10, and that's how we will come out with our overall score for who does what. And I will do my best to do this in a timely fashion here, but there's a lot of numbers to crunch in a very short time to do it. I'm not looking for a picture. You just have to name it off, dude.
No, I was just sending
when
that
we come
because
to
it
you.
was my original list so that you guys could see that the lock was always Fantastic Four.
Gotcha. You mean you wouldn't try to play the system?
No.
You wouldn't do that?
I mean, I did, but I did it from the start.
All right. Sorry, I'm just finishing up my list here. Also, big shout out to our channel sponsors. Ryan over at Kaulignation, your one-stop shop for all things Kaulig Racing, Digger Nation, SVG Nation, and all things NASCAR. Jesse over at Jesse's Storytime Spectacular, covering all things pop culture the way that he does. Very unique presentation by a just truly good dude. And last but not least, the man covering vintage cinema. It's vintage nowadays, anyways. Retro cinema might be a better way of putting it. Mr. Jason Knight over at Backtrack Cinema. Check them out. Big thank you to our channel patrons. Without you guys and the support that you provide us over there for our bonus content, we wouldn't be able to do the channel. It's just, clear as day. Some days we're on here and we got 20 or 30 people live, and today we've been bouncing between 5 and 10 the entire time. The algorithm is not our friend at the moment, but we will continue to work through it, and we're able to do that through the support of you guys on Patreon. Links in the description below, patreon.com/The Mask of Fear. All right. I'm missing a movie, apparently. I need to figure out what movie I forgot here. That's so weird. I can't figure it. Is there 10 movies up there on this page?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep.
I just think it's how you have them spaced, because like with most of them, you have a dash in between, but between Deadpool and Wolverine, you have a slash. And then the Iron Man, those two movies are almost like combined together. That's probably what you're saying.
Went from dashes
to
to a
slashes.
backslash to commas, all in that one spacing.
Okay, I got it. All right, so I'll start off with mine. Coming in at 10, Fantastic Four. Coming in at 9 is Avengers, the first one. Coming in at 8 is Civil War. 7 is Winter Soldier. 6 is Thunderbolts. 5 is Endgame. 4 is No Way Home. 3 is Deadpool and Wolverine. 2, like we said earlier, no Iron Man, no MCU. I have Iron Man at 2. And number 1 is the big culmination movie. Endgame doesn't mean squat without Infinity War, and we all led up to Infinity War. So I have Infinity War at number 1. Johnny, give me your 10.
Well, we're going to start off at number 10. You'd expect it to be Thunderbolt since I haven't seen it, right? You're wrong. Captain America Civil War is that bad.
Damn.
I'm being that level of petty. I haven't even seen Thunderbolts, and I'm ranking it higher than this. Thunderbolts is number 9 because I haven't seen it. Captain America Civil War is 10 because I have seen it. Number 8, Winter Soldier. Number 7, I said I walked this because I wanted it in the top 10, not because I thought it was the best. It's Fantastic Four. Number 6, Infinity War. Number 5.
Hang on. Fantastic Four was what?
7.
Okay.
6 was Infinity War. 5 is Avengers. 4 is Iron Man. 3 is No Way Home. 2 is Deadpool and Wolverine. And 1 is Endgame.
All right. Randy, give me yours. So far, I'm keeping up. Johnny went a little quick there for me, so maybe slow it down just a tad.
All right, so for me at number 10, I have Fantastic Four. Moving on to number 9, I've got Civil War. Coming in at number 8 is Thunderbolts. Coming in at 7, Deadpool and Wolverine. 6 is Winter Soldier. 5 is No Way Home. I have Infinity War at 4. I have the OG Avengers at 3. Iron Man is number 2. And then, of course, Endgame is number 1.
I really don't get the Endgame number 1 stuff, but that's just me. It'd be like,
It's the
oh,
finish.
Return of the Jedi number 1.
No.
Yeah, so it's Return of the Jedi, but no thanks. Tommi B, up to you, man.
Number 9 is, or I'm sorry, number 10. Skipping number 10. Number
Book 10.
number 10 is Winter Soldier.
Okay.
Number 9 is Civil War.
Yep.
Number 8, Avengers. Number 7, Fantastic Four. Number 6, Thunderbolts. Number 5, Iron Man. Number 4, Deadpool and Wolverine. Number 3, No Way Home. Number 2, Infinity War. And then number 1, Endgame. All of it because I said so.
All right. Before we get into any of this, Johnny, we'll start with you. Were there any surprises this evening that caught you off guard?
Yeah, you idiots voted for Civil War. No, I mean, outside of that, like, that's really the only one. And even looking at it, that's literally the only film that I didn't have in my top 15 that I had seen. Obviously, Thunderbolts didn't make my top 15 because I haven't seen it. You know, if we'd have planned out the MCU a little further out, I probably would have watched it this past weekend. But, you know,
Wait, you would have watched the whole MCU?
no, I would have watched Thunderbolts.
That would be an accomplishment.
I would have watched
Jeez.
Thunderbolts so that I would have been able to accurately rank it, because, you know, generally speaking, like, even the things that I have seen looks fun. Like, I'll enjoy it. I just haven't got around to watching it because, you know, it's been a relatively, you know, there's been a lot of movies that I want to watch this year, surprisingly enough. I just haven't got around to watching that one yet. But no, that's really the, you know, that's the only one. Civil War is the only one that I didn't have on my top 15 that made either the top 10 list or the honorable mention list. So no, I'm not really surprised by anything. There's nothing that stands out as like an, oh man, you know, that didn't make it, or that, you know, wasn't. In fact, you know, 9 out of my top 10 initial rankings are in the top 10. Excuse me, 8. 8 of the final top 10 were in my, you know, top 12. But, you know, nothing is really surprising to me.
Randy, how about you? Any surprises?
Oh, obviously, you know, Fantastic Four getting a lock was something I was not expecting. I was pleasantly surprised that Thunderbolts ended up on the list because I really did enjoy that movie a lot. So, and I wasn't sure if, you know, I was the only one that liked it that much. But but like Johnny said, a lot of what's on this list was in my top 10. Obviously, Thunderbolts and Civil War were in my top 15. So the fact that majority of the movies that are in my top 15 are in the top 10, I mean, that's not bad. I'm not going to complain about that.
Tommi B, did anything surprise you tonight in terms of people's picks?
So I don't know if I want to use the word surprise, but something that I think is noteworthy is that almost half of this list is post-Infinity Saga. And that's noteworthy because very often people say anything post-Endgame is just not good, not worth your time. And I think that we could say good things, of course, about other films that are post-Endgame, post-Infinity Saga.
Can we? Can we really?
Yes, we can. and if you act like we can't, you're lying. But
because you said so.
Yes, because I said so. And what I say is true. I can't even say that with a straight face. Anyway, I really appreciated doing this with y'all.
All right, well, let's get to it. The unveiling of our top 10, coming in at 10th place, is Captain America Civil War, otherwise known as Avengers Civil War, as Tommi B pointed out earlier. It comes in with a possible 8 out of 40 points. Coming in 9th, somehow, thanks Johnny, is Fantastic Four, with a possible 10 out of 40 points. Coming in 8th is Captain America the Winter Soldier, with 13 of a possible 40 points. Coming in 7th is Thunderbolts with 15 points. Coming in 6th is the First Avengers, 19 points. So just under the 50% threshold. Top 5 starts with Deadpool and Wolverine, huge jump, 28 points. 4th is No Way Home, 29 points. 3rd is Iron Man with 31 points, but no first place votes. 2nd is Infinity War with 31 points as well, but it had 1 first place vote. And our top Avengers film, to my great displeasure, is Avengers Endgame with 36 of a possible 40 points. Note the jump from 6th to 5th. The 6th place film was Avengers with 19 points. The 5th place film was Deadpool and Wolverine with 28 points, a 9-point jump, the biggest increase there is between any set of positions. So I think it's fair to say that at least when it came to the top 5 MCU films, I would say the points prove that we were on the same page. 6 through 10 gets real dicey, but that top 5 is rather unanimous. Maybe not the positions in it, but the 5 films themselves is something else. To recap once more, in 10th place is Civil War, 9th is Fantastic Four, 8th is Winter Soldier, 7th is Thunderbolts, 6th is the First Avengers, 5th is Deadpool and Wolverine, 4th is Spider-Man No Way Home, 3rd is Iron Man, 2nd is Avengers Infinity War, and 1st is Avengers Endgame. That is the first edition of Reel Picks in the books. Tommi, really appreciate you doing this with us tonight, man. We know we want to get you out of here as we close down. But this was a lot of fun, man. Hopefully you enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, it was really cool. Thanks for having me.
Where can everybody find you at these days? Anywhere?
No. Hopefully not on the side of the milk carton.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. I'll hear when you grace us with your presence.
All right. You guys all have a good night.
That
Yeah, you
is
too, man.
Tommi B, Mr. Go Fuck Himself, coming in hot with some great takes this evening. Johnny, your thoughts on the first edition of Reel Pix?
I mean, it was fun. I enjoyed it. Even though things got a little intense there at certain points, but that's the fun of this stuff, like that's the enjoyment of these, is that, we can get belligerent and loud and mouthy and, shake hands and part friends. That's the beauty of debate, when done properly. And that's what this was, I may not agree with certain takes, specifically Civil War, but it was ranked appropriately. It was 10th. I feel good. In my final ranking, I had 3 ranked in their true position as far as overall ranking goes. So I'm happy about that. There was a couple that were kind of, off by ones from my list. So overall, I feel good. It was fun. It was an enjoyable experience. Even though you guys put Civil War on the list, that's my only negative, but that's all right. Everybody's allowed to like bad movies. There are a few stinkers I enjoy, and that's fine. That's okay.
Randy, how about you? Thoughts on the first edition of Reel Picks in the top 10 MCU films?
So yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. And looking at the podium for the top 3, I mean, I can get behind it. I have no qualms with those 3 films being the top 3 in the MCU, because obviously in the Infinity War and Endgame combined, that was just an absolute phenomenon. And then with Iron Man, it's the one that let it all off. Without Iron Man, there is no MCU. So it's, like I said, it's appropriately ranked at the top 3, and I think it's cool that we at least agreed on some things. I didn't expect us to all just be like, oh yeah, this is 10, this is not. No, I knew this was going to get crazy, and I was fine with that. I mean, come on, think about it. Thunderbolts made it to 7, then Johnny's never even seen it, so that could have actually ranked higher depending on if he'd seen it or not. You never know. But yeah, it was a fun. There's definitely a lot out there. We could just sit there and rank and go through this sort of thing again, and it's exciting proposition to know that we're going to do this again at some point.
Absolutely. Before we go off air here, do either one of you, and keep it brief, have a snub of this evening that did not make the top 10?
I mean, I'd say Ragnarok, I think, is infinitely better than Civil War. Infinitely. That's the only one that I'm like, that's the only one I wish could have been there. Yeah.
Yeah, mine would probably be Ragnarok as well, but the fact that, other than the one comparison I made, that like all Age of Ultron didn't even get nominated was, wow, that's something else.
We would have got a no from me if it did.
Randy, any snubs for you?
I mean, obviously, I'm happy that Guardians and Black Panther at least got in the conversation. It would have been nice if they could have made it to top 10 just because they were on my list. But obviously, with the MCU, it's so hard. There's so many good movies. Like you were talking about, like Guardians 3 and Homecoming and First Avenger. It's hard to just rank, take a top 10 out of 37 films, and it's only going to get more. There's only going to be more. So if we ever have to do this again, you never know. Our top 10 is probably going to change down the road. It might not, but there's a good chance it could, as long as we start considering MCU starting to ramp up the quality again.
Yeah, now that you bring it up, First Avenger not even getting nominated is something else, because it's in my top 15 films for sure.
It was on my top 10.
It's a great movie, and it's part of the thing, though, right? Like, if you keep something in your back pocket for too long, it might miss out. But let us know in the comments section down below, whether you're watching live or after the fact, what you thought of the first edition of Real Picks. My guess is our second episode, which will be constructed in the same way, may not be a top 10 list. It could be a top 5 list or a top 7 list. It just depends what that topic ends up being. We had the ability to go from movies to TV shows to video games. Hell, maybe even some wrestling things. We'll have to wait and see how it all turns out. Johnny, where can everybody find you at, man?
Oh, you can find me here, there, and everywhere.
Randy?
Over on X at Giggity Giles. Obviously here weekly, and maybe sometimes on Bannerman Banter, depending on when you guys record the topic. Also, last week we did do our first episode of the Sports Brew, and it's looking like we're going to do a week 2 tonight. So if you're interested in listening to a bunch of guys just talk shit, drink, and talk sports and all that fun stuff, just Google Sports and Brew, and you should find us no problem.
Is that live, or is it recorded and posted up later?
It's recorded and posted up later. We do a Zoom chat when we do it, and the guy that runs it, Justin, he has a soundboard and everything. He records it all, does all the editing himself. He's definitely the main inspiration for the show itself. So
I feel his pain. All right, that is going to do it for us this evening. Like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications to all. Check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/The Mask of Fear. Link is in the description below. Thank you to Tommi B for joining us. Thank you to everybody in the chat. Fuck the YouTube algorithm. Certainly not helping us lately, but this was a lot of fun and well worth the time. Tomorrow night, Ahsoka, episode 6, aka Thrawn's debut, live over on the Patreon. Sign up. Squared Circle Rebellion tier. We'll see you then. We'll see you all in the next video.